Good evening and welcome back to ADSR. My name is Paul Nolan, and for the next hour we are going to explore this exciting new plugin from Baby Audio called Atoms, which was released just a couple of days ago, and I've had an amazing time putting this live stream together, getting to know the synth, and it's an exciting one. It's a beautiful new synth that's capable of some really amazing new sounds, and it's going to be a fun time over the next hour or so. So without much further ado, we're going to get straight into it. But before we do that, ever so slightly, we're going to just have a little look here. It is available, Atoms, right now over at ADSR Sounds, the place for all of your plugins, sound packs, sample packs, and MIDI files, courses, tutorials, you name it. We've got you absolutely covered, and this is available right now, and the sale ends on the 30th of March, just after my birthday. Just hint, if anyone wants to send me a card. And it is available for a pretty ridiculous price here right now of £56. It's really worth it, trust me, and you will hear as such as we get going right now. So we are going to fold that away. We are going to go to Ableton, our trusty Ableton, as per usual, and as I click into this lovely panel here, you can see that we have Baby Audio Atoms running already, and as you can see, it's a beautiful user interface here, and we're going to have a really good time. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to play this very briefly, and then we're going to get into what's going on with Atoms and how we can manipulate it, how we can work with it, and how it's an amazing tool for sound design. Here we go. So for those of you who know my style, I'm very much progressive house, melodic techno, whatever you want to call it these days. And this is very much like in my wheelhouse in terms of a groove. Really nice. And what you're just hearing there in Atoms, if we just play that in solo, you can just hear a lot of modulation and a lot of movement straight away. But also tonally, like, it's familiar, but maybe not. There's kind of a bit more going on underneath the hood. And as the panel says here, just around the top here, as I make this obscenely large on the screen so we can see everything a bit better, it's a physical modeling synthesizer. So for those of you who might not be familiar with physical modeling as a form of synthesis, you may not know how it works, and it's very clever. And what's going on here with Atoms is very sort of classic physical modeling, in that it's essentially what we call a mass spring network, and different physical models can mimic different types of material. In some cases it can be strings, sometimes it can be different materials like steel, wood, glass, that type of thing. And in this case, it's what Baby Audio are calling a mass spring network. So effectively, it's how you stimulate a physical item, shall we say, or a simulation of a physical item. Stimulate the simulation. Try saying them after a few jars of your preferred beverage. However, this is really interesting because it allows an access point to incredibly, in some cases, realistic sound. If you listen to that, I'm calling it the bass plod because I've got a little 8th note arpeggio going here. It's got almost like a feeling of like a vibe of like a bass guitar, almost to the point where, you know, if I was to put, you know, amp or one of the, you know, more sort of fuzzy distortion plugins that you can get in Ableton on this, you could actually turn this into like something that sounds like, I don't know, like an old school kind of Rickenbacker bass, or, you know, a Washburn type sort of bass guitar, and actually make it sound pretty realistic. But again, this is being synthesized by how this mass spring network is being stimulated. And in this case, it's mostly to do with bowing. in this case. So again, what we're going to do is break down the user interface, because it is, once you get your head around it, extremely simple to understand what's going on. And again, what's great about the Baby Audio stuff is their user interfaces are just so easy, so clear, so minimal, but really nice to look at. I've been looking at this thing for hours over the last few days and absolutely love the thing. And again, you can add in the tooltips on and off. That's going to be a great help to us over the next few minutes as we spend some time in Atoms. And as you can see here, you've got movement, you've got some kind of automation going on board. We'll get to all of that. But the first thing is like thinking about that we have these springs in the simulation. How can we stimulate them in order to create sound? And one of them is by bowing. And effectively, it's a similar situation as with, say, for example, a stringed instrument like a violin, a cello, a bass, that kind of thing, a viola. And you would bow the strings in order to get a certain type of sound. And again, think about all the different ways that you would stimulate a real string in real space. You could drop things on it, you could pluck it, you could finger pick it, you could, again, bow it backwards and forwards, and then think about the variables of the force of which these things happen. So again, it's very much a bowing motion. So the force here controls the pressure of the bow. So in your mind right now, you can actually visualize a violin bow going across this sort of virtual spring, this network of springs. And of course, as you bow it with different types of force, and again, think about it, an actual stringed instrument like a violin, its tonality will change quite dramatically depending upon how hard you push down on the string, or the spring in this case, with the bow. And it's the same with other stringed instruments like pianos, because yes, pianos, we've got keyboards and stuff, but they are classed as a stringed instrument. And in that case, it's a strike. It's a hammer hitting a string. And if you think about playing the keys very softly and very gently compared to pressing down quite hard on the keys, again, you get a completely different range of brightness, darkness, tonality, release, decay, all of that stuff. And this is what physical modeling synthesis aims to emulate. And it takes synthesis in a slightly different direction from classical forms of synthesis like subtractive synthesis, and again, even latterly stuff like wavetables and even FM synthesis. So it's a very, very interesting thing, and physical modeling synths have been something I've been very, very fascinated with in a long time. And honestly, there's been one synth in particular that I absolutely love, which this very much reminds me of, which is in Logic Pro, which is called Sculpture. And that is one of the great physical modeling synths. And this is right on that level, to be completely honest. And in a lot of ways, it's a lot easier to use, a lot more immediate, and you can get some great sounds out of it. So again, what you're seeing right here, just hovering over, is that this force engine, shall we say, controls, again, the pressure of the bow on the spring. So if we were to move with that, and again, we're going to get into these onboard modulations and automations, if we were to turn that off and we play the sound in isolation here, you'll hear a change in the tone. And I'm going to pull this filter up here so we can hear everything. And ironically, when you hear the filter all the way up, it's gone even more bass guitar-y because it's got that kind of crispy, almost saturated kind of top end. So if we were to, again, with increasing force, you get noise and interesting overtones and harmonics. And it goes really quite gnarly at that point. All the way through to very, very calm, very simple. And again, what you actually see is what you hear, because you can actually see the spring network moving in this central kind of orb section here. Again, very apt name for Atoms, because we are literally building sound right from the beginning here. So yeah, you've got force here, which is quite cool. And then you have something called the motion engine, which you've just seen there, and we're going to get into that in a bit more detail in a moment. Now, what's really interesting here, if we turn this off, we've got chaos. So chaos will just add exactly that. and as it says here, non-linear behavior. So again, the spring will react in slightly uncertain ways and will add things like pitch glides, detuning, in some cases, you know, full-on wobbles, and it'll do some really interesting stuff. So let's have a little listen to this. And you can just hear that bend and that warp going on. And as we increase that with the force, pretty cool. And again, you've heard me use the drive there. Again, it's a harmonic clip with a wave shaping function. So a lot of things are happening, even things like the wave shaping here, in a way that's musically related. And that's a big thing about Atoms, is that everything that's going on pretty much is musically related in some way. Even the variations and the randomizations that we'll get into are pretty much, you know, all harmonically related to what's going on within that simulation. To the point where everything that you hear in terms of effects, be it the drive, the modulation and vibrato controls you can see here at the bottom, right? Honestly, it's very, very cool, but the space is the only thing that's a separate effect. Everything else you're hearing right now is literally as part of the physical model itself. So it's self-generating kind of its own effects. Movement and modulation give you this kind of like chorus kind of effect at extreme settings, shall we say. And the vibrato obviously will give you that kind of like pitch modulation as well. So it's very, very cool. So, so I'm just looking at some questions here. Eddie, Atmos, so Atoms, not Atmos, not to be confused with Dolby Atmos, only works with a MIDI source, or can it work as an effect within an audio track? It's a synthesizer. So at the moment, I am using just a nice held note with an arpeggiator here. So again, it's an actual synthesizer rather than an effect. So that's an important thing. So again, it's not the type of thing that you can, you know, sidechain things in. You know, it's very much its own beast, shall we say. So yeah, pretty cool. So again, we've also got order, which again adds a high frequency damping. So it does dull the sound a little bit. So you can hear that even with high levels of force. And things get pretty weird because you can almost hear the bow bouncing. Again, that drive there as well, even with overtones. Really nice and crispy. Again, less chaos means more order, shall we say, like it, order and chaos. See what I did there? And then obviously you've got a filter just to bring it down. It's got a nice little squelch to it, but you can increase that filter resonance. It sounds really nice. Sounds great at that point. And again, I've just got a drum rack going here, so I'd just love to hear it with her. Again, once the force kind of goes a little bit hard, you can hear it kind of starting to affect timing and groove and stuff. I mean, again, it's one of those things I could just sit here for the next 40 odd minutes that we're still on live here and just sit and just twiddle those six, you know, map them to a MIDI control and off you go. Very, very satisfying. So just to kind of address the global section here at the bottom, what's really cool is the fact that you've got these different elements. So you've obviously got classic stuff like attack and release, and sustain, just a word on sustain, because you'd normally see like a full ADSR, like a decay and a sustain. There's kind of like the decay is implied with the attack and release, and the sustain is implied by note length. So the longer you hold the note, the more it's going to sustain. So it's kind of like a very natural thing where you've kind of decoupled sustain from, an individual control, and you can kind of just use it very intuitively based on the note length itself. So it's, which is quite cool. So again, in this case, when I'm using something like, say, for example, an arpeggiator, the gate length here can be quite useful for that. So yeah, definitely cool. Definitely very, very cool indeed. Dr. Roderspin, can it do MPE? It begs for played with my fingers on a board controlling many of these characteristics. If you are eagle-eyed there, Doctor, is there a doctor in the house? Yes, there is. There's an MPE button at the top. We're going to get to that as part of the modulation. So yes, it then allows you to do polyphonic aftertouch, which is very, very cool. And it gets included in the motion engine, or the modulation, shall we say. So, very, very nice. So, with this global section, again, you've got attack and release, as we were just saying. And then you've got these 4 profiles. So, it can change the profile. So, it kind of changes the tone a little bit, so you'll hear it. So, let's just... There we go. Get that to a nice moment there, like so. And now you'll hear it. So this is actually the lo-fi profile. Let's go to the standard. Again, changes that tone really nicely. In harmonic, so you get some non-musical related kind of dirt in there, which is quite nice. And then alternative, as you can see, the model changes quite a bit in terms of its behavior. So you get different tones there as well. And then lo-fi, very, very nice. Now what you've got here is also a transposition, so you could go get deep and raspy there, and then just, nothing, essentially. And then obviously you've got movements, and as you can see here on the movements, the tooltip gives us the idea here. Depth and speed of the bowing back and forth, modulation. And the modulation's quite interesting because it actually changes the location of a pickup. So as I was mentioning before about bass guitars and even like electroacoustic guitars, one of the things that really can change the tone is where the pickup sits on the actual body of the instrument. So you can actually do that here, where you can decide where alongside that spring network or along the length of it can you actually create and position the pickup. So let's kind of have a little go at this and see what happens. And as you can hear, they're at extremes. And it's an LFO type control where you have a rate that you can have running free here, as it says here, 2.5 hertz, or you can set it to a tempo, you can set it to quarter notes, you can set it to half a bar, 1 bar, all the way up to 4 bars. And again, the position changes, and you heard quite an interesting change there, so that's something that can be absolutely worked with. And again, this rate here allows for that pickup to move automatically. Then you've got the vibrato, and again, it varies the stiffness of the spring. And again, if you think about it, the stiffness of the spring is related to tuning, right? So again, go back to a guitar, or even stuff like a spring reverb. The more tightly sprung the spring is, or more tightly strung the instrument is, the higher the pitch, the stiffer the string, it creates different vibrato and everything else. So you get some interesting elements there as well. So, and you can hear that moving around quite a bit. I'm being quite extreme with it. But again, just adding a little bit of realism, because there's always going to be a natural bit of vibrato here. Add a bit of chaos. And you've just got endlessly evolving, slightly morphing, imperfectly perfect textures every time you get a note. And that's the real power of the Atoms synth here and physical modeling synthesis in general is that it does increasingly really, really cool jobs of kind of mimicking not so much the actual sound itself, but the behavior of real life instruments out in the physical world. So it's very, very interesting in that particular regard. And as I mentioned before, the only effect that we've heard so far that isn't generated itself by the physical model is the space, and it's got a really nice reverb, and it's very intuitive. Again, along the x-axis, you've got the actual mix of the reverb, so that's dry wet from left to right, and then the actual size of the reverb from left to right, basically, or up and down, I should say, on the y-axis. So again, this is completely dry with the smallest room size all the way over to completely drowned. So let's have an experiment with this as well. It's really short, small reverb. Really, really cool. So there you go. So that's kind of like your beginning element, really. Like your 101 on Atoms, essentially. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to like kind of calm this down a little bit. And I'm going to make it sort of slightly less kind of raspy. I want a little bit of it, because I want it to really sit with, you know, what we have here. Like so. I don't want it to take up too much space, because we're going to add some other elements to this and maybe look at, you know, a more kind of arpeggiated type, type thing. Again, another arpeggio, but another one that's a bit more melodic and a bit more interesting. But that being said, we can move on. And I've got another one of my favorite tools here, which happens to be one of ADSR's own, which is MIDI Grid. And that's going to do some really interesting stuff here. That's from a melodic techno pack that I lovingly created for you all. And if you haven't looked at MIDI Grid, there's live streams on this very, very fair YouTube channel. While we're on the subject, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, well, why not? I'm slaving over a hot DAW trying to keep you informed and entertained. The least you can do is, smash the like button, as the YouTube kid says, and, hit the subscribe button to be notified as well with that notification bell. You tell them I'm not very good at being a YouTuber, but you know what to do, don't you? There's live streams all the time and we've got you covered. MIDI Grid, amazing, absolutely fantastic little tool that ADSR have created themselves, and it's one of my favorite sequences. It really, really is. And what I've got here is this other aspect of Atoms. And as you can see, you can go with a dark theme and a light theme, which is quite nice to differentiate them and, be rude not to show both outfits, shall we say, both skins. And one of the things we're going to do here, I've got this in like a completely null state. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just connect MIDI Grid here. And we're just going to listen to this, and to be honest with you, it's probably going to be absolutely foul, sound absolutely shocking, but it'll give you an idea. There you go. So we've got this upward stepping arpeggio, right? And it's just sounding very, very jank at the moment. It's very janky. However, what we can do is sculpt this, and I want to show you this in a way of actually creating sounds very, very quickly. So let's go for it. So let's add a bit of force. Change the model. Kind of like that. Let it drive. Chaos. Let's try that with different profiles again. Oh, it's gone a bit Tron, hasn't it? That one's sounding quite steely. lo-fi one is probably my favourite, you know. Don't want to go too crazy on the drive. Get some reverb into it. Probably go for something a bit sweeter, actually. That in harmonic's quite cool. Yeah, nice. Okay, so we've got the basics now. So let's listen to that in context. Let's put a bit more reverb in. Echo to that. See how quick it is and how easy it is to get something really, really cool going. And again, like, you know, normally if I'm noodling with physical modeling synths, it's normally like, you know, it's a bit of a faff, to be honest with you, to kind of get all the parameters right and, you know, get everything sitting, and it's just so immediate, like it's incredible. So what would be great with this sound is if we could actually start to kind of make it evolve while it's on its way. So we can definitely do that, and we're going to get into that motion. And let's say, for example, you know, I'm really happy with this as a preset. I can just hit save. I'll type there. Let's say, for example, we'll call that, you know, ARP 002, because we're using it as an ARP. Let's call it like matrix or something, because it's related to the MIDI Grid preset. And as you can see there, ARP02 matrix. And again, you can tag the preset. So what I can do is I can tag different colors. I can go obviously red, yellow, and then you can actually sort it by a tag, which is really nice. So again, I can go for the yellow ones. That's something I was using for a video before. Orange one's not in there, obviously. And yeah, you can navigate across different packs. You've got this radioactive pack here, and there's 250 presets, I think, that come with the version of Atoms here. And yeah, just some great presets, absolutely great. We'll play with some more if we get time. And that's as simple as that. Like, you can absolutely very, very easily save your own presets, recall them. And again, the baby audio, the classic stuff, you know, let's introduce a bit of interest into this. You can like load a random preset, which is quite cool. So we'll stay on this one here, because we're going to talk randomization now in this dice kind of situation, because there's a couple of different things here. So on the top left hand corner here, you can see I'm just on this kind of recycle button, and as it says here, create a new variation based on current settings. So this I love, because I've always found when plugins have like a randomization function, it kind of goes like, I'm working over here, and then you hit random and it just goes completely over here, you know. And there's a time and a place for that, but sometimes I just want a nuance. I just want something that just kind of puts a spin on what I'm already working on and just gives me a different look and gives me some options. And that's what this button does. So if we play that and then we hit this a few times, you'll see exactly what I mean. Now, you see, I've hit that a couple of times, and I actually now like what that's done more than my original preset, which is really cool. So then I could go and save that again, and I can save that and I can overwrite it, and then that's cool. And now there you go. So I've just added this musically related randomization into it. It's taken what I've already done and kind of evolved it a little bit. And now I'm even happier with what this is. So yeah, absolutely brilliant on that front. Again, you've also got the ability to hit a button here, hit the dice button, and completely randomize it. But say, for example, before I do that and just, do that and it's going to do something completely mad. Again, hit it again. I mean, to be fair, that's quite cool. But then if I hit undo, I can undo back to my previous state, which is quite nice. Now, let's say, for example, I don't want it to go that crazy. There's aspects of this I really like. I can hit this lock icon here, and I can, say, for example, lock or unlock certain aspects. So let's say, for example, I really like where the drive is. So I can lock that, but I can unlock the filter. And say, for example, I want a different look on the profile. So I can unlock the profile. Unlock that. It's a random. Alright, cool. But what you'll notice is the drive is not moving. Very nice. Love that with the long release there. That's really cool. So yeah, again, you're just one step away from just absolute carnage. And again, if you want to, you can go back to your original. Very, very simple. So again, evolve this preset again. So you've got that randomization, really, really nice. So yeah, Sean, I love a bit of jank. Yeah, exactly. Yes, it's all about the jank. So let's get into some motion, shall we say, because you've seen things move and automate, which is really, really nice. So let's say, for example, if we did want to do some automation on this harmonic clip drive, we can click on it and we've got a couple of different waves. So we've got a sawtooth wave, a sine wave, and we've got like a random drift, which is great on stuff like, say, for example, chaos. So if we put a little bit of drift on chaos, actually, and you can see you can define limits similar to like other synthesizers that you might have used. So I can say, right, well, I want to limit the chaos to kind of like around here. Okay. Or say, for example, between, 3 and 9 o'clock, something like that. So nothing too crazy, right? And you can see it moving, albeit very slowly, because I've got the automation rate here. So it's a rate between, obviously, 0 and 100. As you can see, it's going really wonky in random directions, both forwards and backwards here. But what I can do is just feather that down a little bit. I can actually, again, it's a random drift. So disabled when automation set to drift because it's supposed to be completely random. And you've also got free, trigger, and hold LFO modes, shall we say. And you can see that happening on a re-trigger. Hold, free. So again, let's leave it on the free mode and then see what it does. Just adds this element. Do something similar. Let's say, for example, add the saw. Re-triggers with every note. Let's set that, it's on a sync, so we can set that to say 4 bars. And now you've just got a load of movement. very quickly, you've got 3 or 4 elements, all automating, changing, morphing, completely changing the sound at any different point. Very nice. The other thing you can do as well is, let's say, for example, this force one here. What we can do is actually take this circle button here, and you can drag it to copy the automation settings between parameters. So if I want to apply the same type of automation, in this case to say the filter, I can just drag and drop it on, and you can see it's doing something very, very similar. And again, you can just set your parameters. So very, very cool. So you've got this completely morphing, modulating thing going on at all times. And it's just life happening the whole time. Very, very nice indeed. And again, you've got other aspects here. You've got a monophonic and a polyphonic mode. So again, I'm keeping this in mono because it's just playing the one note at a time. We'll probably spawn another instance of this in a moment. Start looking at some pads and some drones, because that's going to allow us a clear example of MPE. You can actually, when things, because as again, you can imagine with the way certain settings go, it does have an opportunity, atoms, to kind of get a bit, again, there's that word, a bit jank, a bit like off key. And you can adjust the global tuning by like half a semitone by 50 cents each side, which just allows you to kind of do something a little bit interesting and keep things in pitch if it goes a bit inharmonic. Because again, we are using the the alternative engine here, the profile, I should say. But again, in inharmonic, things can kind of get a bit weird. So you can do a bit of a global tune on that. Again, you can see like I'm running a couple of instances here and live streaming at the same time. And it's like my Ableton CPU is totally fine. Like I'm running at 128 samples, believe it or not, and it's absolutely not blinking. But if you do have limited CPU, you've got an eco mode here, and it disables the chaos parameter, which is one of the things that really kind of adds a lot of, processing load, shall we say, to it. Obviously, you can turn the tooltips on and off. You've got the ability to panic if it kind of get stuck notes, that type of thing. And of course, you've got the MPE button. So let's show off the MPE, shall we say. And let's do a copy of that. But I'm just going to move that back to all ins. And I'm going to give that a slightly different color. And we're going to call this a pad. Okay, so we're going to play around with some pads now for most of the time that we've got left. And what I want to do is kind of really show off the MPE capabilities here. So this has been uncoupled from MIDI Grid, and we'll start playing around with some of the presets. So I'm just going to tag to yellow here. We'll use this Aurora pad here, which is really, really nice. So we'll just get that. There we go. And as you can see, the MPE button's on. So what I'm going to be able to do here is actually showcase the MPE not only on single notes, but on multiple notes. Because again, it's per note aftertouch, which makes it really powerful. So again, I'm just going to play this D here. But as soon as I start doing some aftertouch here, you can see parameters are moving, specifically the drive here. Because you can actually see here, the motion is set to MPE. Okay, so when it's set to MPE, basically you don't get any other control. So things like, syncing and stuff like that don't quite apply, but it's the pressure of the note that gets you there. So let's say, for example, if I was to play a chord now, something like this, just a wicked pad there. But if I only do aftertouch on the top note, you then get the drive on that particular note, essentially, and the rest of it, you can hear it kind of keeps it exactly where it needs to be. So it's really, really interesting and quite detailed where that's concerned. And again, you can apply different elements. So let's do some chaos on the MPE. and we can just dial that from nothing to something. So let's go. So you get that movement and that pressure, and again, the whole thing becomes expressive on top of the very, very useful and very easy to use internal automations. So again, for me, this is, instantly has become one of the more interesting yet extremely simple to use synths that I've come across in a while. And again, you've seen the other live streams that I do on ADSR. We've done a lot of really interesting synths recently, and personally, I think this one's chief amongst them. So it's very, very powerful where that's concerned. So we've got a little bit of time. We've got about 10 minutes before I do questions. So if you've got questions about the synth, drop a comment. I'm reading all of the chats here. I've got a separate screen for that, so we can have a little listen to it. So let's just continue to play with it and see what we can do. So let's try and lay this pad in and use it in a live fire production kind of situation, shall we say. And again, we should be able to, there you go, channel pressure. So we can kind of edit that a little bit if we wanted to, and kind of get into that, which is quite cool and very nice. And again, the pad's a bit dominant at the moment, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to EQ in. can configure the filters here. You can see filter min and max there when you've got automation on. So let's just knock that off for a second, and we can knock it back on after we do the map. Let's do that. There we go. Happy days. And then we can kind of control that whichever way we want. Map that to a control. XY pad for the reverb. You can also map here using the configure option. So we'll add them to our macros here. I mean, to be honest with you, I'm being a bit greedy here because I'm just kind of doing my own sound design work. It just so happens I'm doing it on a live stream while you guys are watching, you know. So again, I love doing this. I love getting the instrument racks going. So I could call this Atoms PM default. That can then be saved into my library, and this is a great starting point. Again, I'm a big lover of controllers like Ableton Push, so it means that these parameters will show on top of my push automatically as soon as I can, I control it and select it, I should say. That's the right word I'm looking for. And yeah, there's a whole host of other things we can do. So yeah, I will get more elaborate with integrating this as time goes on. So yeah, pretty cool. So yeah, you've got that. You've got the ability to obviously integrate it into your sound design that way. And yeah, just really nice. The pad, I'm actually thinking I might try something else with. So again, this is great because like I'm not massively keen on the pad if I'm being honest. So what I might do is just get a variation. Let's see what it comes with. I think it's just kind of the sound itself. So let's have a little look at some other pads. And again, like in the browser, you can see that the MPE compatible ones are very clearly marked, very clearly shown. Let's try Dystopia. Let's live a little, shall we? Oh, that's cool. Adds a bit more tension. It's a bit mid-rangey, but we can EQ that. Set that down a touch. Not bad, let's try another one then. Kind of low, so we can... go. I mean, might just carry on, might just turn it into a track. Really like the interplay of the ARPs and stuff, and Atoms just makes it really interesting and really cool. So yeah, amazing stuff. Amazing stuff. What a great synth. And, you know, Baby Audio have been on such a roll recently with some of the stuff, you know, with recent plugins. It's been really amazing to kind of, you know, play with their stuff. Like the BA1's great. Transit's fantastic for doing interesting transitions. You know, the whole 9 yards, really. So if you're not onto the Baby Audio stuff, hopefully this will convince you. And yeah, great stuff. Absolutely great stuff. So yeah, let's have a little look at some of the comments. Lee Tomlinson, hello, sir. Hello, sir. He's a familiar name to me. We'll talk about that at the end. Nice workflow suggestion with the push. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, if you are using various different synths, and again, this isn't just for Baby Audio, this can be anything in Ableton, any other plugins that you use. If you do own an Ableton push and it is a well-used synth, then honestly, like setting up like a default with your macros and everything else all set up and saved so you can drag and drop it into your tracks at a touch of a button is an absolute godsend, and it just really throws you into that world of performance really, really nicely. So, Jai Zaza, hello, mate. I've not seen that name in a bit on a live stream. Don't watch other streams on the Twitch, you know what I mean? Well, you know, I would always recommend keeping it locked here, do you know what I mean? All good, all good. Sean, all about the jank, no treble. Yeah, exactly, mate, exactly. You know, metallic jank is what I'm all about. Ariel Gray, Omnisphere has this lock-unlock feature as well. Love using it. Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's something I wish more plugins would have. Intelligent randomization, where you don't, like, completely lose the thread of everything, as I was saying before, is absolutely fantastic. Ariel again, press it, we got a track. Exactly. Instant inspiration. Absolutely. Lots of love for the word jank in the comments. So there you go. There you go. We can't really ask for any more than that, can we? Jono Twycross. Hello, Jono. This is an amazing synth. Great distortion sounds. Yeah, very much so. Could not agree more. Could not agree more. And yeah, really, really lovely stuff. Really, really lovely stuff. So yeah, amazing, amazing. Just going to go through some of the YouTube comments a bit earlier on. Hello to Dennis Vetters. Hello. Hello, Eddie. I mentioned you before. And Dr. Rodosman. Very cool. Ariel sounds quite wide. Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, all parameters can be automated. Yeah, we were talking about the MPE before. There's another comment here from Dr. Rodosman. Does it really deliver in a mix where you can have funny overtones that clash with regular Western tuning? So good, yeah, and again, that's why the global tune is there, right? So the global tune is there. You know, it is your friend to, you know, knock things out, shall we say, as I put myself back on the main camera, to knock things into place. You know, and be able to kind of work with those funny overtones and actually take advantage of them a little bit. Again, like sounds like this, they can take up a lot of space, but that's a good thing, you know? That's a really good thing. So yeah, it's a great point you made. Eddie, I imagine due to the different resources, Atoms could spatially expand some synthesizer sounds similar to what Baby Audio Transit does in a way. Yeah, I felt that. Just that ability to kind of like morph sounds in a very different way. I'm always looking for different stuff, you know? Absolutely. So yeah, there you go. Some great comments here. And Sylvan Williamson, thanks for the great demo, Paul. You are very, very welcome. As you can tell, I have a ball on these synths. I have a ball on these streams. So, you know, what's not to like? I get to spend time with great people like you guys in the chat across Twitch, Facebook, YouTube. And yeah, we get to geek out together. We get to come together for the love of the word jank, apparently. And, you know, we also come together to save a bit of money on plugins at ADSRsounds.com. So again, this amazing synth, Baby Audio Atoms, is available right now. And it is at a very, very nice price point. It is at, if I just try and bring that up on the screen again, I think I'm probably not going to be very successful with that, but yeah, it's at an amazing price. Go back early in the stream to find that out, and of course keep it locked to ADSRsounds.com because we've got you covered, and anything you need basically. Presets, you know, I make packs for presets, packs of presets for ADSRsounds.com for, you know, all sorts of different synths, including their own. MIDI Grid, for example, is one thing we looked at earlier. And we've got a lot more stuff coming, and it's going to be a really exciting year with a lot of stuff, a lot of great live streams, a lot of great music getting made, a lot of great tips. So again, subscribe to the YouTube channel, give us a thumbs up, helps us with the ever almighty and all-seeing algorithm, and yeah, helps us to help you even more with even better plugins and everything else. So yeah, amazing stuff. I've been Paul Nolan. You've been an absolute pleasure to serve over the last 55 minutes or so. And yes, if you want to know more about me, give us a follow at Paul Nolan Sound on Instagram. I also run an amazing community of artists called Make Your Transition, MYT. That's Make, MAKU, Transition, TRANSITION. Don't know why I got into the spelling bee there. That's on Instagram as well. We run a record label which is riding high at the top of the techno chart on Beatport at the moment, so check that out. We put a new track out last Friday. It's a members only label to launch new careers. We've launched incredible careers of the likes of Four Candles on Bedrock, Masano on Afterlife, being two key artists who have graduated, shall we say. And we love being partners with ADSR because it fits absolutely beautifully together, and it's an honor and a privilege to have the team at ADSR extend the invite on such a consistent basis. So we love working together with those guys, and long may it continue. So yeah, find me and us on socials. Find ADSR on socials, ADSR Sounds. They're always putting great stuff up on Instagram and on other platforms and stuff, so give those guys a follow as well. And yes, keep it locked for more live streams because we've got a lot more coming. So yeah, have an amazing rest of your day, no matter where you are in the world, no matter what time zone you're in, and whatever it is you're up to. Look after yourselves, look after everybody else, keep it locked, and keep making amazing music. That's it for now. Much love, and I will see you guys very soon. See you later.